Paul Davies to move the motion.
Chairmanship, Ms Llewellyn. I beg to move that this House has considered e-petition 70005, which calls on the Government to increase funding for people with Parkinson's and to implement the 5 steps of the Parky Charter. With over 116,000 signatures, this petition is not just a call for change, it's a collective voice of a community that has waited too long for meaningful action. Parkinson's is one of the fastest growing neurological conditions in the world. It affects over 116,000 people in the UK, and that number is expected to rise to 173,000 by 2030. These are not just statistics. They are our neighbours, our friends, our family members. Behind each number is a story of resilience, of daily struggle, and of hope. The Parky Charter is a powerful 5-point plan created by the Movers and Shakers podcast group. It is backed by Parkinson's UK and aims to improve the lives of those living with Parkinson's. It calls for faster access to specialists, clear and immediate information, a Parkinson's passport to ensure joined-up support, comprehensive support across health and social services, and renewed investment in research for a cure. There's a competition. First and then secondly, of course.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Initiatives like Derby County Communities Trust Parkinson's Walking Football Programme are doing fantastic work to boost physical health and build a community for people with Parkinson's. Does my honourable friend agree with me that by coupling investment in Parkinson's support workforces with community initiatives like this, we can help every person with Parkinson's to live with dignity and support that they deserve?
Thank you. And thank you for that intervention. Absolutely agree with you. I think that strength of the community around investment, around specialist support is of key importance, so absolutely. And before I proceed, I think I'll let the second person come in.
As someone who, the son of someone suffering from Parkinson's, both my uncles have Parkinson's and my granddad sadly died of Parkinson's complications. One of the things that hit me was the fluctuating nature of the condition. Would he agree with me that one of the best parts of the Parkinson's passport is that people will not have to go through reassessments when we know this degenerative condition will only get worse for many people?
Again, thank you for that intervention. And I will refer to that later on, but I absolutely agree. I think the nature, the fluctuating nature of this illness means that we have to do that, so absolutely agree. Would you do one? Go, of course.
He's incredibly generous.
But it is on. I'll only lose my place otherwise. So yes, of course.
On that point, he's incredibly generous. I thank him for making an excellent introduction to his speech. Is he concerned, as I am, that given that the condition very often is degenerative and people don't get better from it, tragically, that it is outrageous that a number of ICBs, including mine in South Cumbria and Lancashire, are reassessing for continuing healthcare people with Parkinson's, and many of them are losing it? Would he agree with me that that is wrong, and people with such conditions should be able to guarantee that they will get the support through continuing healthcare that they have had for many years?
Again, thank you very much for that intervention. I would agree, and I'll refer a little bit later on to ICBs, but clearly, ICBs have to ensure that full support and necessary support, particularly to this community. I understand the pressures they're under. We all understand the pressures they're under, but certainly taking away support when it's been there previously is a much bigger issue than the fact that people not getting support in the first place. So I certainly would agree with that, and I think that's something which I'm sure all of us from across the House would like to work on going forward. So it's rooted in lived experience and offers a practical roadmap for change. That's in terms of the renewed investment, to give some context, because I think otherwise we'll lose the track of where we were. But in April, during World Parkinson's Day, I attended a big sing for Parkinson's, an uplifting event. It was quite amazing and inspiring. It was full of energy, music and community spirit. It was organised by the same movers and shakers group. It brought together people living with Parkinson's and, very importantly, their families in both London and Huddersfield. I had the pleasure of speaking to Mark Medell, the former BBC political journalist and lead petitioner, and Mark is sat at the back there. So thanks very much for this petition and the work that you were doing. And he shared his personal journey with me and the urgent need for reform. Like the Charter, the Big Sing is a celebration of resilience and a call for action. Madam Chair, since July 2024, the Government has taken the following steps. The autumn budget last year included 600 million increase in social care funding and an 86 million boost to the Disabled Facilities Grant. And in April 2025, the Government reaffirmed its commitment to improving outcomes for neurological conditions through initiatives like the Right Care Toolkit, the Get It Right First Time programme and the Neurology Transformation programme. The Spending Review 2025 also pledged 29 billion in additional NHS funding by 2029, including 10 billion for technology and GP training. This is just the start to address the needs of those living with Parkinson's. Now, there are an estimated 253 people with Parkinson's living in my constituency of Combe Valley. This is as per previous constituency boundaries, and there will be revised figures, which hopefully don't revise that upwards, but there will be some new figures in line with the new boundaries. West Yorkshire ICB plans and delivers care for people with Parkinson's in the ICB area. And in 2023-24, the spend on admissions to hospital in the ICB area increased 4.9%. And the cost of each admission was just over £6,000. However, we face extremely serious challenges. The UK ranks near the bottom in Europe for the number of neurologists per capita. Neurology services meet the 18-week referral target only about half the time. Only 44% of patients in England have access to an occupational therapist, 62% to a physiotherapist, and just 40% to a speech and language therapist. These professionals are essential. They're not optional. The Government is addressing this through the broader NHS workforce strategy that includes expanding training places and reforming medical education pathways to address shortages in specialist areas such as neurology. But the Charter also highlights the importance of timely medication. For people with Parkinson's, receiving medication within 30 minutes of the prescribed time is not a convenience, it's an absolute necessity. Yet more than half of hospitalised patients report delays. The NHS's Medicine Safety Improvement Programme, running from 2024 to 2027, is a step forward. But implementation must be consistent across all trusts. Sure.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and serving under your chair, Madam. I think earlier on today I was in the Westminster Hall Palace with the Parkinson's event, and I spoke to a surgeon who treats Parkinson's patients every week, and he said to me that more people wanted to be seen earlier, he could have ensured better outcomes. So does my honourable friend agree that this battle is partly against funding that is needed now rather than later down the line?
Thank you. Once again, thank you for the intervention. And I, once again, absolutely agree. And certainly we refer to funding later on. It's a key issue. Yeah, it's about resources, and it's about making sure that help is there as quickly as possible, because obviously, the longer it takes to provide that support, the more this hits people. The impact is far, far greater. So absolutely agree. The Parky Charter addresses also the personal independence payment system. Parkinson's, as we know, and it was referred to earlier on, is a fluctuating condition, and assessments often fail to capture its complexity. The government is now working with Parkinson's UK and individuals with lived experience to reform the PIP assessment, aiming to make it much more reflective of fluctuating conditions. This review is expected to report in autumn 2026. But the Minister has pledged that the voices of the Parkinson's community will be central to this process. The Government has expressed a desire to return to routine face-to-face assessments, but also indicated that for those with very severe conditions, full assessments may be waived if sufficient medical evidence is provided. Sure.
Thank the Honourable Member for giving way. In terms of treatment for those who are suffering from Parkinson, would the member agree with me that best shared practice across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland should be put in place so that everybody gets the best treatment right across our United Kingdom?
Thank you for that intervention, and I couldn't agree more. It's not, I will probably say later about postcode lotteries. It's not just a postcode lottery, it's across the whole of the nation. You're absolutely right. So we should be doing everything we can to ensure that consistency of support and adequate support across the nation. Yep. Innovation also offers hope. Produdopa, I think I said that probably better than the last time I was here, is approved for NHS use in 2024. And I was actually in an event earlier on today, organised by Parkinson's UK, talking to a neurologist who's a specialist, who was talking about the impact of medication and how much difference that will make. And that itself, it was fascinating, and to help me understand the impact, that 5 minutes was of huge value. Yes? No.
On the question of innovation, the University of Wolverhampton, in my constituency of Wolverhampton West, recently launched a new course in collaboration with British Judo to enable those suffering with Parkinson's to remain active and for them also to increase their confidence with physical activity. So does he agree that what we need is multidisciplinary, comprehensive approach to Parkinson's care, and this kind of support is crucial to supplement the specialist medical care that you've spoken about, and that's the best way to support those who are suffering from this awful disease?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I know from my experience of talking to one of my constituents, Liz Ryan, that that physical support, that ability to be able to do something and get involved in activities and have help is of immense value. So, absolutely, we have to have a holistic view to this. It's not a simple case of just medication. It's not a simple case of taking people into a clinical environment. We have to look at what we can do within the communities, as was mentioned earlier on, how we can support people with their lives and ensure that they live their lives to the full potential that they have going forward. So, some of the innovative medicines certainly can be life-changing for those with severe symptoms, but staffing and funding constraints mean many hospitals cannot offer these solutions. Access to new treatments must not be a postcode lottery. Now, I want to take a moment just to share some encouraging news from my constituency. Currently, we have a neurology registrar based in Leeds who is spending a significant amount of time seeing Parkinson's patients in Huddersfield. He works alongside a dedicated doctor who also travels from Leeds to support patients at Huddersfield Royal Infirmary. Just last month, they met with the operations director at Huddersfield Royal Infirmary, who shared some good news that in December, the Trust will be advertising for a consultant neurologist with a special interest in Parkinson's. This role will be based in Leeds, but will include a significant commitment to patients in Huddersfield. This is a direct result of our local campaign, and in particular, the tireless campaigning of our local Parkinson's community group, led by Liz Ryan MB and Dr. Chris Ryan. It shows what can be achieved when we work together: patients, families, clinicians and elected representatives.
I thank my honourable friend for leading today's debate and for the movers and shakers for promoting today's debate and indeed the Parky Charter. My honourable friend talks about working together, and one of the issues I've heard from constituents in Stevenage is that it's at the outset where there's been misdiagnosis, where GPs haven't identified the conditions and referred to the right pathway. Would my honourable friend agree that we do need to, it's not just about funding, but it's also about training as well?
Thank you. Certainly, and the discussion I referred to, I had you earlier with the neurologist specialist. We talked quite a bit about that as well, and the difficulty with diagnosis and the similarities between Parkinson and other neurological illnesses and issues. So you're right, there is absolutely a need for that. There's a need to ensure that GPs at least recognise some triggers or some areas so that they can get the specialist support. Without that early diagnosis, again, many people are suffering unnecessarily for many, many years. And you know, the support that they could have to help alleviate some of these issues is not getting to them. So, yep, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm grateful. I mean, on the subject of early diagnosis, this isn't just about GPs' ability to diagnose. It's also about the ability of patients to get neurology appointments. Does he agree that more people would be able to get the clinical care and support that they need if they were able to get that appointment within the first 18 weeks?
Thanks again for the intervention. And absolutely, that's one of the calls, certainly within the Parky Charter, and one of the calls that we're making is for that additional support. It's crucial that we have that, those specialists available to do that. And we recognise there is a shortage across the country, but we have to work hard to fill that gap as soon as possible. But I totally agree with you. Just going back to the work that's been done in my constituency, I certainly want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone who has supported that particular effort. Madam Chair, Parkinson's demands our attention, compassion and action. The government has made some progress, but clearly the petitioners would like to see more done. I urge the Minister to work with the Parkinson's community, particularly the petitioners, to implement the Parky Charter, especially in the following areas: invest in the Parkinson's workforce, ensure timely access to medication and specialists, and expand access to innovative treatments. I welcome the commitment shown by the Minister, who has recognised the urgency of improving care and support for people with Parkinson's. Now is the time to turn that commitment into concrete change through funding, reform and compassion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The question is that this House has considered e-petition 713-714 relating to funding and care for people with Parkinson's. We'll need to put a time limit on of 2 minutes for backbend speeches. Dr. Kieran Mullen.
Chairman, Ms Lewell, and I'll keep my remarks brief because it's so well attended today. It's a real privilege to speak at this debate and to do so on behalf of so many people in Bexhill and Battle who have campaigned tirelessly to improve care and support for those living with Parkinson's. Parkinson's UK tell me they estimate that in Bexhill and Battle around 377 people live with Parkinson's, and I want to pay special tribute to my constituents Linda, Helen and Vivian, who join us in the gallery today. They are part of a fantastic local Parkinson's group which campaigns with energy, determination and an unwavering commitment to the community, and their advocacy has brought the realities of living with Parkinson's to the forefront, highlighting not just the challenges but bringing forward practical solutions. And their work has been key in raising awareness locally around the Parky Charter petition. I'm immensely proud that Bexhill and Battle recorded 576 signatures, the highest number anywhere in the UK, and that's a testament to the strength of feeling in our area and the dedication of campaigners who ensured every voice was heard. The Charter aims to highlight delays in diagnosis, fragmented care, failed benefits assessments and underinvestment in research as key areas where we need to do better. Delays in diagnosis can have irreversible consequences, and around 21,000 people in the UK are currently living with Parkinson's undiagnosed. Access to a full multidisciplinary team is another central pillar of good care, yet only 44% of people have access to an occupational therapist, 62% to a physiotherapist and 40% to a speech and language therapist. And research is needed to create a brighter future for Parkinson's sufferers. Currently there is no cure and treatment options are limited. With someone diagnosed every 20 minutes in the UK and 25 million people affected globally, the need for new therapies is urgent. Closer to home, we have seen some encouraging steps in local Parkinson's services. Our local trust has signed up to Parkinson's Connect, allowing direct referral at the point of diagnosis, and the trust now supports around 800 patients, and the specialist team has grown from 1 to 4 staff members over the past 2 years. Home visits and outreach clinics are planned, which could make a meaningful difference once fully operational, but progress remains uneven. Thank you.
Privileged to take part in this debate, and in May this year I was delighted to secure the first substantive debate on Parkinson's held in the Chamber, and it's fantastic to see that as a result of that tenacious campaign we've not had to wait long for this next opportunity. And I want to start by noting the incredible feat of securing over 100,000 signatures on this petition raised by Mark Mardell on behalf of the movers and shakers. Madam Chair, in Scotland there are around 14,000 people diagnosed with Parkinson's, and every single day another 7 people are told they have this disease, one of the fastest growing neurological conditions in the world. In my constituency there are 235 people living with Parkinson's, each of whom supported by carers, both paid and unpaid, family members and clinicians who work tirelessly to ensure they can live their very best quality life. But when we look at the health economics of Parkinson's, Madam Chair, people living with the condition are 7 times more likely to be amongst the very highest users of health services, falling into a category defined as high-cost, high-need patients, along with approximately 5% of the general population. And meeting the needs of this accounts for more health spending than the remaining population put together. And so we would expect that this group of people are able to access consistent gold standard care and support, yet face some of the starkest postcode lotteries anywhere in the UK. In NHS Forth Valley Local Authority, in my constituency, people referred for neurological support are typically seen quickly, but in NHS Fife, the median wait for the first neurology appointment is 31 weeks, stretching to 87 weeks for some. Madam Chair, you can imagine not knowing that something is wrong and having to wait for almost 2 years before a specialist can help you understand what is happening to you. Can you imagine the impact on your loved ones? We must always remember too the emotional and social cost to people with... I'm happy to give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. I wonder if he agrees with me that whilst tackling Parkinson and highlighting the issue today is absolutely critical, we also have to make sure that we're looking at Parkinson's with dementia and all the other challenges that come with such a complex set of health issues.
Can I thank my honourable friend for that intervention? She's absolutely right. The complexity both of Parkinson's itself and the other conditions it presents with is another reason why this is something we must tackle immediately. I want to make sure I'm not using up other people's time to repeat some of the information in the Parky Charter. However, I think the need for speedy care, instant information, and I think the point raised earlier on about the Parkinson's passport, making sure that that is also involving devolved administrations to make sure that touch points are truly connected and best practice is being delivered wherever possible. Madam Chair, the financial cost of living with Parkinson's is immense, and on average it costs a household £21,986 per year, and people with Parkinson's are 9% more likely to be incorrectly assessed for PIP or adult disability payment in Scotland, something I do hope that the Minister will address in her closing remarks as well. Thank you.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Chair, a real pleasure to serve under your chairship. I'll show people how to do a 20-minute speech in about 2 minutes. But there you are. Can I first of all congratulate the honourable gentleman from Colin Valley for setting the scene and thank him for that. I'm the DUP party's health spokesman, so I know personally of many people in my constituency who suffer from Parkinson's and the devastating effects it can have on aspects of their lives. Can I give a big thanks to Parkinson UK? There's many of them in the audience in the gallery today, and thank them for all the help that they have sent to us. I want to give some stats and 3 questions in the short time I have. In my constituency of Strangford, there are 272 people living with Parkinson's, a further 694 people in the South Eastern Trust area, and we expect that in this year 98 more people will have Parkinson's. Shockingly, around 1 in 5 people don't have proper access to a Parkinson's specialist nurse, 1,328 people in Northern Ireland. And my first request to the Minister, and I'm lovely to see her in her place and thank her for being here, is to ensure that the 4 regions, as my colleague from North Down, that we work together. That's England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. We can do it better together, and we always should try and do that. In living with Parkinson's costs, the adaptations, the travel costs, additional energy payments, they say it's almost £23,000 a year to have Parkinson's, and that's a salary. Can I highlight the issue of Parkinson's and personal independence payments? I do them all the time in my office. The fact of the matter is, I'm not really quite sure whether the person who does the checks the PIPs thing actually has, I say this with respect, has the knowledge to understand what PIPs is, what Parkinson's is, and how it should be involved. PIPs. So that's my second ask of the Minister. There's no doubt that change is needed. And the third one is research. We're aware of the motor and non-motor symptoms that come along with Parkinson's. We must have more research. Let's find the cure in our lifetime. They say that in 10 years' time they'll find the cure for cancer. Well, let's find the cure for Parkinson's as well, and that would be my hope. Timely diagnosis, specialist care, community support remains inconsistent across the region, so leaving many individuals and families navigating a condition without the full resources they need. Thank you very much. 2 minutes.
Eric Linden.
Honourable friend on securing this debate. And can I say that I've had the honour in the past of being the chair of the all-party group, a group that's very forceful and quite rightly so. I just want to address a couple of things in my speech. So starting with the workforce, it's crucial to situate the point about shortages within the context of the forthcoming refreshed workforce plan. The government has a golden opportunity to fix problems that have blighted Parkinson's diagnosis and care for years. As with many other conditions, people rely on Parkinson's diagnosis to access vital support. However, recent research by Parkinson's UK suggests that up to 21,000 people are undiagnosed. The neurology waiting list stands at more than 226,000, and only half are seen with the 18 weeks target. So sitting at the root of this is our lack of neurologists, but for many patients, receiving a diagnosis is only part of the battle. Around 1 in 5 don't have access to a specialist nurse. There are also alarming shortages of occupational therapists, physiotherapists, as well as speech and language therapists. Adequate access to specialist multidisciplinary care is crucial for managing what is such a complex condition and preventing unplanned hospital visits.
I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady for giving way. In advance of this debate, my constituent Tony contacted me to say that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019 but has only seen a specialist 3 times in the 6 years that's followed. Does the Honourable Lady agree with me that access to specialists is absolutely vital, not least for quelling anxiety, but also to helping those with Parkinson's to develop plans to help them live independent lives?
Thank you. Very eloquently, the very real problem that exists for people with their diagnosis and what happens afterwards. So, sitting alongside the government's workforce plan, a new modern service framework for neurological conditions would set clear, evidence-based objectives and standards for care delivery. I don't know that I've got time to give way. Actually, too many people want to speak. Sorry. It would drive faster diagnosis and treatment, boost access to multidisciplinary teams and improve secondary prevention. I urge the Minister to consider introducing a framework for neurology in the Government's first wave of MSFs in 2026. Will the Minister ask the Secretary of State to meet Parkinson's UK and the Neurological Alliance to discuss how the framework could help improve patient outcomes? With regard to financial support, Parkinson's comes with a significant financial cost. People with Parkinson's spend over £7,500 a year on average just to manage their condition. However, the personal dependence payment system has failed the Parkinson's community since its creation 12 years ago. Inaccurate assessments are far too common, and too often people must bear physical and emotional strain of the appeals process. In the last debate, the Minister offered to relay concerns about PIP to the ministerial team in the DWP against the backdrop of the Pathways to Work Green Paper. Now that the team review has been launched, will the Minister make representations in the strongest possible terms that any reform of PIP must deliver fair and accurate awards for people with Parkinson's?
In the interest of time, I'm going to concentrate just on PIP. The evidence of the last 10 years tells us that the PIP system copes very poorly with fluctuating neurological conditions. As a member of the Work and Pension Select Committee, I constantly hear of people being denied PIP, even when diagnosed with some of the most severe conditions. Reports suggest that people with Parkinson's are more likely to be inaccurately assessed than people with any other condition. And I've seen this close up. One of my constituents in Horsham had Parkinson's for 30 years, yet continued to be denied PIP. Nationally, over 430,000 people are stuck waiting for PIP reviews, causing delays for 24 million a month in essential support payments. What we're seeing is the opposite of overdiagnosis. Almost 302,000 PIP decisions have been overturned on appeal in just 2 years. That's not an occasional error, it's evidence of a system failing on an industrial scale. I very much hope that the forthcoming TIMS review will operate in a genuinely collaborative way, as is promised, to put this service on a stronger footing. When support is denied, people lose their mobility, their independence and their ability to keep working. They fall into crisis, end up in A&E or even worse, and all of this at far greater cost to the state than if we had supported them properly in the first place. Cutting support does not necessarily save money. It simply shifts the burden onto hospitals, social care, carers and families. People with Parkinson's deserve dignity, independence and a system that understands their condition. Let's give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Becky Cooper.
It's a privilege to speak for Worthing West, where support for the Parky petition has been strong, and particularly in our amazing local Parkinson's group. So Parkinson's is one of the fastest growing neurological conditions. Behind the statistics are many people coping with tremor, rigidity and off periods, and carers holding everything together. Too many constituents face long waits for diagnosis, inconsistent annual reviews and patchy access to specialist nurses and community rehab. In West Sussex alone, over 4,000 people are living with Parkinson's, mainly over 65 years old, but there are also many younger people who have Parkinson's trying to work and support their families. The government has acknowledged the challenges, and we have already heard about the Right Care Toolkit and the Neurology Transformation Programme. But without targeted workforce and implementation funding, guidance will not translate into timely care for patients, including a plan to restore the 18-week referral to treatment standard by 2029.
Would my honourable friend give way?
Yes, I would.
Can I thank my honourable friend for giving way? She's making an excellent speech. She mentioned the Parkinson's group in her constituency. In my constituency, the wonderful Mervyn Dunkley and Jane Hua and their team run brilliant weekly Parkinson's move and shout classes for people living with Parkinson's disease at the Fairfield Leisure Centre in Dartford. Would she agree with me that every community deserves a Mervyn and Jane and a rollout of classes like these, which are of huge benefit to local people suffering from Parkinson's right across the country, so more people can benefit?
I thank you for this intervention, and I think it is incredibly timely that we are talking about this in the context of the NHS 10-year strategy, where we're moving from treatment to prevention. In this particular area, as with so many neurological disorders and others, there is a lot that can be done in the preventative space. Thank you. I can slow down slightly now. Thank you. So today, I asked the Minister to consider, alongside the Parky Charter, which asks for speedy specialists, instant information on day one, a cross-condition health conditions passport and comprehensive multidisciplinary care close to home, as well as a sustained quest for a cure. Specifically, I would like to ask her to consider a near-term date to deliver 18-week neurology referrals for suspected Parkinson's, ensure annual specialist reviews for people with diagnosed Parkinson's, expand specialist nurse and multidisciplinary team posts in each area of the country, no more postcode lottery. Pilot the cross-condition health conditions passport, but I appreciate there are links there to the upcoming NHS app work. Publish access standards and dashboards. Oh.
My apologies for having some issues with the clock. It should be okay now. Sorry. Right, Stafford.
No problem. Congratulations to the Honourable Member for Colne Valley for bringing this debate. Every hour, 2 more people in the United Kingdom hear the life-changing words, "You have Parkinson's." And as I've spoken about before, for me this is personal. A close family member was first diagnosed with Parkinson's and later with progressive supranuclear palsy, a more aggressive condition. But my family's experience is far from unique. Numerous constituents have contacted me about this, including Ellie from Farnham, who's in the public gallery today. They all speak plainly about their daily reality, mobility difficulties, speech challenges, and the emotional strain that falls on both individuals and their families. Their story shows extraordinary resilience, but also the gaps in support that remain.
Will the Honourable Member give way?
I will do.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way. Will he agree with me that the current pathway for innovative technologies to be licensed is both costly and time-consuming, meaning inventions that would help his constituents, like Beach Band, which uses vibrotactile stimulation to decrease symptoms, face delays in testing and potential introduction, and that we need to find a way forward?
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. I've also been approached by Beach Band. What we must ensure, and I hope the Minister will take on board, is that where there are new technologies, where things could potentially help Parkinson's sufferers and indeed any other disease condition, that the MRHA and the government ensures that those innovative technologies can get to the front line to help people as quickly as possible. I will do.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way. Does the Honourable Member agree with me that early detection is key to fighting this disease? And is he encouraged, like I am, with research done by Moorfields and University, City London University, that have found that detection of the back of the eye, retina, can detect Parkinson's disease 7 years earlier than any symptoms being presented?
I bow to the honourable member's experience in this, but it clearly, again, I hope the Minister is listening carefully, that these kind of innovative technologies can make a significant difference and should be rolled out as quickly as possible. But, Mr. Chilwell, living with Parkinson's brings real financial strain as well. On average, people spend more than £7,500 each year managing their conditions, rising to nearly £22,000 when lost earnings are included. So support is not just a clinical need, but an economic one. In my Farnham, Borden, Hazelmere, Liphook and the surrounding villages constituency, 289 people are currently living with Parkinson's. And the fact that we are, I believe, the only constituency served by 3 integrated care boards because of their different size brings with it both challenges but also a comparison. And while the sizes are different, some of the challenges remain the same, namely the length of the level of admission for emergency, which is increasing across all 3 ICBs. And these figures lay bare the scale of the need and the pressure on services. They underline the urgent requirement for earlier access to specialist care. Now, I raised these concerns in May as a Shadow Minister. Sadly, I remain unconvinced that the current government has identified Parkinson's as a strategic priority. The new 10-year health plan imagines neighbourhood teams of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, physiotherapists and social workers. It's a positive vision, but it'll only work if those Parkinson's specialists are part of those teams. In the Health and Social Care Committee, we often hear about artificial intelligence, remote monitoring and wearable devices, all with the potential to transform care through earlier intervention and better monitoring. So therefore, the government must look at these as well. I will end with 3 clear questions, Mr. Stirrell. First, in May, the Minister committed to discussing support from the point of diagnosis with Parkinson's Connect, the Parkinson's UK programme designed to equip NHS professionals. Have those discussions taken place and what actions will follow? Second, the Minister has said that Parkinson's nurses, and I quote, are worth their weight in gold, and I agree. So what practical measures have been introduced to strengthen training and development for those nurses, particularly those supporting patients with the most complex need? Third, will the Minister commit to working closely with charities such as Parkinson's UK to ensure the 10-year plan gives patients, carers and frontline staff the support they urgently need? Members across this chamber share one goal: better diagnosis, better treatment and better support for people living with Parkinson's. Action is what brings progress, and action is what our constituents need and deserve.
Sir Rhys Thomas.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. And I commend, in the usual way, my honourable friend, the member for Con Valley, for the way in which he introduced this debate. Given the time, I wanted to focus on just 2 of the particular challenges that the Parky Charter, which I strongly support, addresses. The first of those is the financial circumstances in which those with Parkinson's find themselves, the additional financial challenges that it brings for them and their families. And in particular, to highlight the challenge of prescription charges that are faced by many of those with Parkinson's. England is the only part of the UK where people with Parkinson's still pay for their prescriptions. This is because the NHS medical exemption list, created in 1968, has barely changed since then. To put that in context, the Beatles' Hey Jude was the UK's biggest selling single that year. It was before Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Medical knowledge at that time was far behind what we know today. And it was a long time yet before I would be born. This, I would gently suggest to the Minister, is a very serious issue. Some people with Parkinson's who can't afford prescriptions reduce doses or skip medication, risking hospital admissions and irreversible damage to their health. Many of those with Parkinson's already hesitate about taking medication. I think about my father, who had Parkinson's in that context in particular. There are worries about side effects. There's difficulty accepting diagnosis. So having to pay for your prescription simply creates an extra barrier or reason not to start medication. And taking those prescriptions, taking that medicine, can significantly help with the day-to-day management of symptoms. It can prevent falls and hospital admissions.
Tribute to my constituent David Reid, who has done a huge amount of work to promote this petition, including wearing his Parky Charter T-shirt around the Scottish borders. I met him most recently at the Border Union Show when we spoke about the importance of this petition and his hope that it would get enough support so that we could have a debate. And here we are. Parkinson's impacts every aspect of people's daily lives, from making a cup of tea to getting dressed to spending time with friends and family and much, much more. According to Parkinson's UK, there are around 14,000 people in Scotland with a diagnosis of Parkinson's. Parkinson's UK does outstanding work to support people with this terrible condition. In the Scottish Borders, I have met their teams many times, including recently in Galashiels, and have learnt more about the helping hand they give to people living with this terrible disease and their families. I would encourage anyone who is affected by Parkinson's to attend one of these events if they need someone to talk to, a need for a little bit more support, or simply want to get out and about to socialise. I want to thank everyone who volunteers for Parkinson's UK in the Scottish Borders and across the UK, who do so much to ensure there is support for people living with this disease. But 1 in 3 people diagnosed with Parkinson's is of working age, and more than 10,000 are under the age of 50. We owe it to everyone with Parkinson's to ensure they have the support they need and the best life they possibly can.
Mohammed Yazin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank my constituent Ruth, who attended my recent drop-in surgery and asked me to speak today about an issue that is personal not only to her and to my family, but to thousands of families in my constituency and across the country. Ruth was diagnosed with Parkinson's in March 2023. After a long, fragmented and exhausting journey, she went from GP to GP, from test to test, waiting months and years for appointments. As her symptoms worsened, she felt she had no choice but to seek a private neurologist, where she finally received the diagnosis that changed her life. What has helped her since is community, information, and honesty. That is why the Movers and Shakers podcast and organizations like Parkinson's UK have been so important. Public figures speaking openly about this very important issue related to conditions like depression, fear of falling, and navigating care have cut through stigma and reached thousands who felt unseen. Their Parky Charter sets out clear, reasonable asks: faster access to consultants and follow-up care, clear guidance at diagnosis, a Parkinson's passport to ease access to support, and timely physiotherapies, speech therapies, and wider services. Parkinson's is the fast-growing neurological condition in the world. We need Parliament to act now. Families are asking for a system that does not leave them waiting, fighting, or falling through the cracks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mitchell.
Thank you, Ms Lewell, very much for calling me, and many congratulations to the honourable gentleman for Cullen Valley on having this debate today. As many members have said already, there are a huge number of families who have an acquaintance with Parkinson's. My old dad, who served in this House till 1997, lived with Parkinson's, and I'm hugely honoured to be the patron of the Royal Sutton Coldfield Parkinson's Group, which does so much good and hard work in the Royal Town. I want to pay a special credit to the movers and shakers, led by a group living with Parkinson's, some of whom are in the gallery, started by Rory Kethlen-Jones and Sir Nicholas Mostins. That podcast has made a huge difference to so many, and I'm extremely grateful to Sir Nicholas for agreeing to come to the Royal Town next April. There are just two key points I want to emphasise. The first is we do need more specialists and better access to specialists. We do not have enough neurologists in this country, and you're supposed only to have to wait 18 weeks, but there's clear evidence of people waiting for between 1 and 2 years, and of course most of those won't have any medication in this period. There are 720 neurologists in the UK. There are 4,400 in Poland, and Poland has half the population that we have in the United Kingdom. The second point is that we need more support for research. Inevitably, that is about funding. We need to harness the private and public sector extremely well together to maximise that. But those seem to me to be two of the key points amongst the five that we are discussing tonight in this debate.
Yeah. Well done.
Vicky Slade.
Thank you, Isabel. It's a pleasure to serve with you, Mr. Chair. Imagine being told you have a progressive, incurable condition and then waiting over a year just to see a specialist. That's the reality for so many people with Parkinson's, and the number of people with Parkinson's is set to double by 2050. When my constituent Carol was diagnosed in 2009, she was only 46 years old. Consultants told her they hoped a cure might come within a decade, but 16 years later, nothing. I must at this point declare an interest. My daughter Molly is a PhD researcher with a brilliant team at the University of Southampton working to understand Parkinson's so that better treatments and cures can be found. And as a member of the APPG for Parkinson's, I know great work is happening elsewhere too, particularly through the Brain Bank at Imperial College London. But research alone is not enough. People living with Parkinson's need care now. Just before the general election last year, the current Secretary of State for Health, in his shadow role, admitted in Parky's Politics in the Pub that there were not enough neurologists and committed to fix it. He said, "We campaigned hard on workforce to get the last government to commit to doubling the number of medical places so we can drain up staff, especially in neurology where we have shortages." And he said he would deliver that workforce plan. And yet today, waiting times are unacceptably high, not just for initial appointments but ongoing care. One constituent in... Yes, of course.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. I want to pay tribute to the 459 constituents of mine who have signed this important petition. Would she agree with me that as well as swift access to neurologists, access to specialist nurses is absolutely vital, and also having a named GP for long-term conditions such as Parkinson's disease? One of my constituents who wrote to me said her father's just had his medication changed, he's having real problems with it, but won't get to see anybody until March. We could reduce unplanned admissions with that sort of support.
I'm so pleased that she made that intervention, as I'm just coming on to tell people about my constituent in Wimborne, who said that he, his brother and his nephew have all been diagnosed with Parkinson's. When he was first diagnosed, he saw a Parkinson's nurse every 6 months, then annually, and now, because there is just one specialist Parkinson's nurse covering my constituency, he's seen nobody for 2 years. Karen, also from Wimborne, emailed me and said she had an appointment with a neurologist, then one with a nurse. She now faces a 14-month wait for her next appointment. And across England, as we've heard, half of patients meet their 18-week target. And we know early support from physiotherapy, speech therapy, clear information keeps people healthy for longer. So if the government is serious about transforming the NHS, it cannot allow people with progressive conditions who need a multidisciplinary approach to be forgotten. When the NHS workforce plan comes in the spring, I want to ask, what assurance can the Minister give that neurology, and Parkinson's care in particular, will feature strongly? It's great that the government have expanded medical places,
But what assessment has been made of how this translates to neurology services? And given the training time for such expertise, what is being done to bring consultants from abroad to tackle the crisis now? In my constituency, there are 333 people living with Parkinson's. On average, each will be admitted to hospital at least once a year, 2/3 as an emergency, spending a week in an unplanned acute bed. This is simply not acceptable, and we need to do better now.
Dr. Simon Offer.
Thank you, Chair. In Stroud, 295 people have Parkinson's disease, and yet there was 960 admissions for this. And I believe actually that Parkinson's, even though we've had a good turnout today, is actually gets less attention than other degenerative diseases at the moment. And this must change because it is much more common. As a GP, I would say that actually diagnosis is difficult for this disease. It can present in a huge number of ways, 40 different symptoms, often with rigidity. The tremor can be due to other things like essential tremor. It can even present with constipation or depression, and indeed with dementia, where it's called Lewy body dementia. That's associated with Parkinson's as well. And a GP can't make the diagnosis, and that's why they have to wait for the outpatient specialist to make that diagnosis, and that's why the wait is so criminal in this situation. What we also need is comprehensive and coordinated care, and I do believe actually that neighbourhood health centres will be fantastic at delivering this care. Parkinson's specialist nurses are absolutely crucial in this. Multidisciplinary teams with physios and OTs are also important, and also social prescribing is incredibly important, about signposting, about getting the right benefits. And indeed, there's good evidence that dancing is really good for Parkinson's disease. So that's something a little innovative. So what we really need for patients with Parkinson's disease is timely diagnosis. We need a coordinated and comprehensive care plan. And most of all, we need to give them back their dignity. Thank you.
Afra Brandreth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. As we've heard today, Parkinson's is a life-changing, degenerative and deeply debilitating condition. So I'm grateful that we are taking the time to debate the issue and give voice to people living with Parkinson's. People like Matt Eagles, who lives in my constituency. Unlike many Parkinson's sufferers, Matt has lived with the condition for over 50 years. He was diagnosed at just 7 years old. But Parkinson's is not the defining thing about Matt. What truly stands out is his positivity. He speaks openly about the vulnerability and heartache alongside the courage, resilience and optimism that has helped him navigate life with Parkinson's. Matt's done a brilliant job in promoting the petition today and is a passionate advocate for improving Parkinson's care. Today's debate, Madam Chair, is not only about recognising and championing people like Matt, who face the adversity of Parkinson's with such optimism. It is also a call to action for us as parliamentarians to engage seriously with how we can improve access to care and work towards a cure. The Parky Charter highlights some important changes to consider. Ensuring that everyone suspected of having Parkinson's can see a specialist promptly and then have regular follow-ups is vital for timely and effective care. Providing people with immediate access to clear, relevant information when they're diagnosed. And of course, the ongoing quest for a cure offers hope for a future in Parkinson's which no longer imposes such a heavy burden on those affected. Madam Chair, hope, support and dignity are what people with Parkinson's deserve. I'm deeply grateful to the 313 constituents in Chester South and Eddisbury who have signed this petition, and for all those working towards a better future for those with Parkinson's.
Ms Newell, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship today in this very important debate, and I thank the organisations such as Parkinson's UK, Parkinson Care, and especially the Movers and Shakers podcast, whose dedication and campaigning led to this huge amount of people signing the petition. And I'm sure the Minister has seen today how many MPs there are in the chamber and how many people in the public gallery. I know there'll be lots of people watching at home as well. In Putney, 269 people have Parkinson's disease, and across the South West London ICB, 2,540 people were admitted to the ICB in 2024 to 5. And overall, the NHS spends £325 million a year on unplanned admissions of people with Parkinson's. So this is a very big issue, which rightly deserves this attention that it's getting today. And I hope for some great answers from the Minister today about what the NHS will be doing. First of all, for more specialists for faster diagnosis. Noting the delays in diagnosis that many members have brought up today, and also is true in my own constituency, but also that in Northern Ireland, 1 in 20 people wait for more than 5 years for a diagnosis. So I do ask the Minister, has she spoken to the Northern Ireland Health Minister, Mike Nesbitt, about this issue in particular? And what steps is the Government taking to solve the Parkinson's diagnosis crisis? Secondly, instant information. St George's University has got the Parkinson's Connect resource and is using this vital resource, but can this be rolled out throughout the country? Thirdly, the Parkinson passport on social security. And as been mentioned by many members, it's a fluctuating condition, and I think PIP system is failing people and their families and their carers with Parkinson's. Has this been raised with the member for East Ham, the Minister for Social Security? The need for comprehensive care and more funding will allow everyone to deliver with care, dignity and hope for everyone and their families living with Parkinson's.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to pay tribute to everyone in Wales and across the United Kingdom who has campaigned so hard for people living with Parkinson's. In Wales, we expect the number of people living with Parkinson's to rise to more than 9,000 by 2030. And yet too many still face a postcode lottery in accessing the most basic elements of care, from diagnosis to rehabilitation. Welsh health boards do not have reliable plans to replace specialist staff when they leave, which means long gaps in access to expert care. Combined with ongoing shortages in neurology, people can wait far too long to see anyone with the right expertise. For a degenerative condition that demands regular and specialist review, this is simply unacceptable. Wales saw some of the highest disruption to rehabilitation services during the pandemic, and many of those pressures have not fully eased. People with Parkinson's still report difficulties accessing physiotherapy, speech and language therapy, and occupational therapy. When rehabilitation breaks down, people deteriorate physically, mentally and socially, and carers are left to carry an enormous burden. Many are older spouses whose own health is already fragile, and they deserve a system that recognises and supports them. We must also fix the basics. In Wales, 73% of people with Parkinson's in hospital say that they do not receive their medication on time. A delay of just 30 minutes can make the difference between going home or staying another week on a ward. This should not be happening.
Yeah. Adam Jorgie.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lowell, and I congratulate my honourable friend from Colne Valley for his excellent opening speech. In June this year, my father-in-law, Adrian Lawther, died after living with Parkinson's for more than a decade. Adrian was a smart, decent and unassuming man and very much lived the lessons of 2 eyes and 1 mouth. He didn't miss a trick and spied everything, but only ever spoke when he needed to. A lesson he never managed to teach me, but that quite a few of us around here, I suspect, would benefit from. He had an interest in the world around him and far overseas, and was incredibly kind and welcoming to me, which was no guarantee when you marry someone's daughter. But for all the memories, the love, the grief and the sadness, we also saw up close the cruel impact of Parkinson's on someone's dignity, their quality of life and those around them. In Newcastle-under-Lyme, hundreds... I will give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and for the very moving way he talked about his father-in-law. Does he agree with me that emphasises the need to make sure that families are supported as well during the Parkinson's care?
Grateful to my honourable friend, and I couldn't put that better myself. In Newcastle-under-Lyme, hundreds of local people live with Parkinson's, and that number is rising. This is a life-altering disease that destroys personal autonomy. It affects your ability to talk, to swallow, to move and to write. Cruel is not the word. For those who are suffering, who need treatment now, the lack of care provision, the inaccessible treatment is simply unacceptable. I think of my friend Alderman Lizzie Shenton, a former leader of Newcastle-Lyme District Borough Council, who I saw just last week. She's been diagnosed with the early onset of Parkinson's in her 50s, very healthy and still has much to do. And extra minutes. Lizzie had to wait 10 months for a consultant appointment to make a formal diagnosis, and she's been waiting for her DAT scan for 5 months, without which no medication or treatment can be prescribed. I want to pay tribute to the fantastic work being done by the North staffs at Parkinson's UK branch, the Chair, Lorraine, the Treasurer, Councillor Dave Grocott, and the whole committee who do wonderful things week in and week out. A big thank you to the Dubb family from the Westlands and Newcastle and Lyme for their annual fundraising 5k run and a massive cookout, smelt very good, at their home, all raising money for Parkinson's UK. My constituent Julie Hibbs from Vadwell has long campaigned to add Parkinson's to the medical exemption list, as the Minister knows. I support those calls. I've raised them with her and others, and I will continue to do so. The funding and availability of care for Parkinson's patients does not match the severity of this disease and the desperate need for proper treatment. Getting those suffering from Parkinson's the right care at the right time is critical to ensuring that their quality of life is as high as it can be, and the cost of funding that is used as efficiently as possible. As more and more of us get Parkinson's, those of us who will suffer from it and their loved ones deserve to know that the question of getting the right treatment is not one they will ever have to worry about.
Terribly sorry we're not able to take any more backbench speeches. I now need to call Liberal Democrat spokesperson Alison Bennett.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, Ms Lewell. And I'd like to begin by thanking the Honourable Member for Colne Valley for bringing this debate, making such a well-articulated establishment of the case for why more is needed to be done to support people with Parkinson's, but also for mentioning the Big Sing. It brought to mind a brilliant event I went to in July, hosted by the Mid-Sussex Parkinson's Group, Picnic in the Park, and their choir was there and their band, and we all had a really brilliant sing-along. I very much enjoyed it, and I just pay tribute to them for what they're doing for bringing people together and for reducing isolation, both people with Parkinson's and their loved ones. People like my constituent Sophie, whose mum Janet was diagnosed with Parkinson's 6 years ago. Janet was active, spoke multiple languages and had an impressive career in business. But Sophie says that Parkinson's has robbed Janet of much of who she is. Despite raising the loss of her sense of smell with the GP several times, as well as several other symptoms, such as increasingly small handwriting, it took over 5 years for Janet to get a diagnosis. We know that Parkinson's predominantly affects men, but much less is known or understood about Parkinson's in women, including how symptoms might interact with menstrual cycles and the menopause. Sophie worries that the dismissive response Janet received when trying to get a diagnosis may be a very common experience for women across the board, and I think Sophie might be onto something here. So the e-petition, bringing forward the Parky Charter, matters profoundly, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to spend time repeating many of the points that honourable members have made in the last hour. I'd be happy to.
Would the honourable member agree that the challenges faced by those living with Parkinson's are far from isolated, and that across neurological conditions, as well as Parkinson's, MS, ME, or CFS, there are calls up for a joined-up neuro-optimal care pathway? A coherent national strategy is what's required.
Thank my honourable friend for her intervention, and I think she makes a point and makes it very well that I agree with. So rather than repeat what other honourable members have made, I'm going to move to identifying the 3 or 4 main areas that the Liberal Democrats want to highlight, hopefully to give the Minister more time to address the many points that honourable members have raised so far in the debate. Those issues are mental health, social care, work and medicines availability. On mental health, I think this is a critical point. Nearly half of people with Parkinson's experience anxiety or depression, and up to 60% will experience psychotic symptoms as the condition progresses. Yet, mental health support remains inconsistent and inadequate, generally, and also specifically for people with Parkinson's. I'd be happy.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and she's quite right to highlight the critical importance of mental health support for people suffering from Parkinson's disease. Will she join me in paying tribute to my constituents, John Cook, who are doing his great work on as a trustee of the Parkinsons.me charity, and also Paul Mayhew Archer, MBE, who, as well as having written The Vicar of Dibley, is now doing fantastic work campaigning for people suffering from Parkinson's disease.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and I would, of course, be very happy to join him in paying tribute to John Cook and to Paul Mayhew Archer for their campaigning. The Liberal Democrats believe that people deserve regular mental health checkups, access to walk-in mental health hubs and timely specialist dementia care. No one should have to fight the system while they are already fighting their condition. In terms of social care, this is a crisis that cannot be ignored any longer. For Parkinson's, it is a progressive, fluctuating condition that affects every aspect of daily life, and yet people are too often left without the support they need to live with dignity. We need better social... Yes, I'd be happy to give way.
Thank you for giving way. Does she agree that diagnosis is just the beginning, because too many people tell us that after receiving this life-changing news, they just feel simply abandoned, and nearly a quarter receive no information about Parkinson's services and no adequate information about their condition. So does she agree that we need to ensure that they receive that?
I'm happy to agree with my honourable friend. She makes an excellent point, and of course the point that she makes also applies to the loved ones of people receiving a Parkinson's diagnosis. So we need better social care for all people when they are faced with a disability, more respite breaks, paid carers leave, and a system that recognises the specific needs of people with neurological conditions. On work, and here I'm thinking in particular of my friend Rob, who many honourable friends from the Liberal Democrats will know too, we must ensure that people with Parkinson's of working age can live and work and participate in work with independence and dignity wherever possible. That's why I and my Liberal Democrat colleagues are fighting for a new right to flexible working and the right to work from home for every disabled person, unless there is a significant business reason otherwise. The Liberal Democrats also want to adopt a new accessibility standard for public spaces and embed the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities into UK law. We want to make sure that support moves with the person and doesn't just stay with that employer. That's why we are calling for adjustment passports, records of the modifications, equipment and adjustments a disabled person uses, so that when they change jobs, their support goes with them. This seems to me to be plain common sense. And in terms of medicines and their availability, we absolutely must speed up access to new treatments. It is simply unacceptable that the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency has had its workforce cut by 40%, slowing down the arrival of... Happy to give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way on that point. I want to commend Poole and District Parkinson's branch, but also on that particular point, tell the story of Carla, whose husband was affected by a lack of access to time-critical medication. Would she agree that it's critical that the government do everything they can to speed up access?
I agree wholeheartedly with the honourable member. So the workforce has been cut by 40%, and that's slowed down the arrival of new therapies for people who desperately need them. We should be halving the time it takes for new treatments to reach patients, not lengthening it. None of this is impossible. It requires us to listen to people living with Parkinson's, really listen to their fears, needs, hopes and their experiences. The Parky Charter sets out a clear and achievable path. It demands dignity, it demands fairness, and it demands that the government finally delivers the timely, specialist, compassionate care that every person with Parkinson's, like Sophie's mum Janet, should be able to count on. So today, let us send a message to everyone living with Parkinson's. We see you, we hear you, and we stand with you. I want to send an equally clear message to the government and the Minister, who I thank for being here today. The time for half measures is over. The time for excuses is over. The time to act seriously, decisively, and with compassion is now. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to serve under chairmanship today. I'd also like to congratulate the member for Colne Valley for securing this debate today, and to thank the charities and organisations, including Parkinson's UK and the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, for meeting with me and sharing their insights into Parkinson's as patients and clinicians. 166,000 people have Parkinson's in the UK. It is a progressive neurological disorder which can start with tremor or muscle stiffness, sleep problems or a whole range of symptoms, and end in complications such as swallowing difficulties, falls and bone fractures. Like all degenerative conditions, it doesn't only impact the individual themselves, but also their family, which is why, Madam Chair, it is vital that our NHS has the neurologists and the therapists to care for people with Parkinson's, because they depend on them for world-leading care. Unfortunately, this is an area in which we could do better. The UK ranked 44th out of 45 European countries for the number of neurologists per population. The UK only has one neurologist per 100,000 patients compared to one for every 25,000 patients in France and Germany. And 1 in 5 patients has no access to a Parkinson's disease nurse. According to... I will give way.
Thank you. The real-world experience in North Norfolk is very much like this, one of struggle to secure the care people need. We have a shortage of specialist care and Parkinson's nurses, just one of the things our rural health system struggles with. Does my honourable friend agree that those living with Parkinson's in rural communities like North Norfolk need support and care providing in a way which is equally accessible to them?
Well, as a rural MP myself, you would not be surprised to hear that I agree with the honourable gentleman. And it's wider specialisms too. According to Parkinson's UK 2022 audit, just 40% of people had access to a speech and language therapist, 44% of people had access to an occupational therapist, and 62% had access to a physiotherapist. And I particularly want to highlight this with the Minister because there aren't any treatments that slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease, but there is some evidence that's published last year that suggests that exercise might do. And so that physiotherapy, making sure that people are doing the right exercises to help them, would be important. What plans does the Minister have to recruit, train and retain the NHS Parkinson's health workforce for the benefit of charities and hospitals and patients? Can she shed any light on how her delayed long-term workforce plan might assist in this mission when it is published? As has been highlighted by my honourable friend for Chester South and Edisbury, Parkinson's disease patients can live for many years, often with huge positivity, and I was really inspired to read of Neil Russell, a 65-year-old gentleman who ran from London to Barcelona, almost 1,000 miles, to raise money for Parkinson's disease. Also, 1 in 3 of those living with Parkinson's are of working age, and it's crucial they can get support, as many work as doctors, nurses, chief executives, scientists, journalists and many others. And I was inspired recently to meet with Dr. Atchison. I had the privilege of meeting him last week. He's not only working as an A&E consultant after being diagnosed almost 10 years ago, but is also leading the work on time-critical medicines project. We've heard already that medicine for Parkinson's is time-critical. If people with Parkinson's do not get the medication within 30 minutes of the prescribed time, it can lead to them being unable to walk, talk or swallow. But research by Parkinson's UK has found that 58% of people, a clear majority, do not get the medication on time every time when in hospital. Not only will this set to cost hospitals £65.8 million in excess bed days and readmissions, but it will cost over 150 people their lives this year. That is inexcusable. Just half of NHS trusts provide staff with training for time-critical medication, and 1 in 4 trusts in England do not have policies allowing people with Parkinson's to take their own medication in hospital, leaving patients capable but unable and suffering detriment as a result of not being able to take their medication. And I was pleased that last week, following repeated questions to the Minister, both in the Chamber and outside, that the Minister for Health, Innovation and Patient Safety met with myself, with Dr. Simin Nico from the RCEM, and with Dr. Atchison to talk about the self-administration of medicines. And I'm pleased that that Minister was able to give a commitment that the Chief Pharmaceutical Officer will work with those individuals to ensure that there is a protocol for self-administered medicines in A&E for those who are capable of taking it, and to ensure that the protocols for time-critical medicines are enhanced. NHS England launched a 3-year National Quality Improvement Initiative on time-critical medications, which is not yet complete. I did worry that the Minister's eagerness to merge NHS England and their own department may cause ongoing initiatives like this one to simply be lost. I encourage the Minister to correct me if I'm wrong, but from conversations with her ministerial colleague, it's my understanding that NHS England's 3-year initiative on time-critical medicines is going to be completed. And research is important, because as I said, treatment at the moment for Parkinson's is symptom relief treatment, not disease-modifying treatment. In fact, some of it's not symptom relief, it's treatment for the relief of side effects of the treatments that are providing symptom relief. So ramping up research is an important step towards finding better treatment and hopefully chasing down a cure for Parkinson's. Between 2019 and 2024, the last Conservative government invested almost £80 million into research for Parkinson's disease, on top of £375 million into neurodegenerative diseases over 5 years. Can the Minister confirm whether this funding commitment will be renewed as part of her government spending review? What assessment has the Minister made of companies pulling out of billions of pounds of life science investment in the UK? How does she think this is going to impact critical research into conditions like Parkinson's? Is she working with her colleagues in the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology to resolve matters for the health sector? Of the treatments we do have so far, Pro-Duodopa was approved in February 24 and made available on the NHS during the last Conservative government to around 900 people with Parkinson's. As people with Parkinson's often struggle with taking numerous tablets to manage fluctuating symptoms, developing a continuous dose of medication 24 hours a day by cannula under the skin can be ideal to manage symptoms day and night. So what assessment has the Minister made of the benefits of Pro-Duodopa so far? What steps is she taking to make sure that more people with Parkinson's have access to this potentially life-changing treatment? More broadly, what is the Minister doing to ensure that she mitigates any supply issues for some Parkinson medications, which there have been supply issues over the last... Yeah. I will give way, yes.
I thank the honourable member for giving way, particularly because I had a magnificent speech, which wasn't able to get in. Nevertheless, the Shadow Minister is speaking about health-related issues, but I just wanted to draw attention to the assessment process for people with Parkinson's in terms of personal dependence payments, and to reference the adult disability payment in Scotland. Will the Shadow Minister agree with me that is a much better system for assessing people's needs, and will she recommend it to the Minister for consideration?
Well, the debate here today is about the Parky Charter, and I'm sure the Minister will answer that question when it comes to her speech. At least I hope she will. I'm sure she will. Where is it? So the government established a Neuro Forum, which was designed to address the gaps in treatment and care for people affected by neurological conditions, including Parkinson's disease. But its achievements so far are unclear, and progress in this space demands clear action, not just empty round tables. So can the Minister confirm how many times the Neuro Forum has met in the year since it was established? Can she clarify what budget and resources have been allocated to help run it, and what its successes have been so far? The government wants to shift towards technology. New affordable technology is available. There is some focused ultrasound which can help with tremor. At its most invasive, there are deep brain stimulators. And very simple technology. I was met recently by Steve Double, who's a former MP, who gave me a device to put on my wrist for a few minutes that shakes. And apparently, people wearing those find that it helps with dyskinesia, rigidity, walking problems and speech difficulties. So what assessment has the Minister made of benefits of technology as a treatment pathway to people living with Parkinson's in the UK? And what's she doing to facilitate the research so that when someone does have a good idea that may benefit patients, it is brought to the fore as quickly as possible? I note the Minister's response to a written question asked by my right honourable friend, the member for Broxbourne. Can the Minister clarify if NHS England's Neurology Transformation Programme will indeed be concluding at the end of this financial year? And can she reassure us that the conclusion of this programme, which includes Parkinson's disease treatments, is not related to her Department of Abolition of NHS England and what she's going to replace it with? A key linchpin of what this e-petition asks the government to do is to consider implementing the Parky Charter, encompassing faster diagnosis, better support, welfare support, access to multidisciplinary care and investment in research. These are all things that I and others call on the Minister to give answers to today. In summary, Madam Chair, with the government's decision to do away with the major condition strategy, I am concerned that Parkinson's disease will not get the research and workforce it requires. People can live with Parkinson's for very many years. For the quality of life of these patients and their families, greater consistency is urgently required in the administration of time-critical medicines in hospitals. Parkinson's is a condition that is time-critical by its neurodegenerative nature. The Minister's actions must be equally urgent and time-critical. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Lewell. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I thank my honourable friend, the member for Colne Valley, for introducing this debate. Everyone that signed the petition for raising this important issue, and to the many members contributing to discussions today. Ms Lewell, 18 backbench speeches, numerous interventions, and I'd like to acknowledge each one of those, and particularly acknowledge all of the constituents and campaigners that honourable and right honourable members have mentioned today. And also a packed public gallery, Ms Lewell, which I think goes to show just how important this debate and this issue is. I will attempt to answer as many of the issues raised and questions put today, but I will acknowledge that I'm unlikely to do all of them. However, I can confirm that my officials have noted every question asked, and anything that I don't cover in my speech will be covered in writing to the honourable member involved afterwards. Parkinson's disease presents one of the most complex and growing challenges for our health and care system. With an ageing population and rising prevalence, the condition demands not only specialist clinical expertise, but also coordinated social care, community support, and innovative approaches to treatment and management. The impact on those affected is profound, and addressing their needs requires a system that's integrated and responsive to both current pressures and future demands. The Parky Charter is a 5-point manifesto created by the movers and shakers to tackle what is described as systematic failings in care. It calls on government to deliver 5 commitments: speedy access to specialists, instant information for patients, a Parkinson's passport to streamline support, comprehensive and coordinated care, and a renewed quest for a cure. The Charter aims to ensure timely diagnosis, dignity and better quality of life for everyone affected by this fast-growing neurological condition. I had the pleasure of meeting some of the movers and shakers only a few weeks ago, along with Parkinson's UK, and I recognise the urgency of their calls. I shared with them my commitment to improving outcomes for people with Parkinson's and their families. I acknowledge the need to improve access to Parkinson's specialists. Through the elective recovery plan, the aim is for 92% of patients to start consultant-led treatment within 18 weeks by March 2029, supported by millions of additional elective appointments across specialties, including neurology. Our recently published 10-year health plan for England sets out a vision for neighbourhood health services, bringing multidisciplinary teams closer to communities and ensuring Parkinson's expertise is embedded in care pathways. We will also publish a 10-year workforce plan, which will ensure the NHS has the right people in the right places with the right skills for patients when they need it, including for patients with Parkinson's. These measures, combined with digital consultations and integrated care models, aim to reduce waiting times, tackle workforce shortages and deliver timely, personalised care for people living with Parkinson's. As of August 2025, there are over 2,000 full-time equivalent doctors working in the specialty of neurology in NHS trusts and other core organisations in England. And that's over 90, nearly 5% more than in 2024. This includes over 1,000 full-time consultants, which is almost 50, over 5% more than in 2024. We will soon publish a 10-year workforce plan to create a workforce ready to deliver a transformed service. Sadly, Parkinson's cannot currently be cured, but it can be managed effectively with the right interventions. That is why we have embedded Parkinson's care with broader neurological strategies, including the Neurology Transformation Programme and the Right Care Progressive Neurological Conditions Toolkit. These initiatives aim to reduce variation in care, improve safety and deliver integrated services across the NHS. They set out what good treatment looks like and support integrated care systems to provide the right service at the right time. We're also taking steps to ensure that people have better access to information. In the 10-year health plan, there's a strong emphasis on using technology and community-based services to provide joined-up care and practical advice closer to home. Initiatives such as Diagnosis Connect, partly inspired by Parkinson's UK's own referral programme, will help newly diagnosed individuals receive instant information and support from trusted sources. We're expanding access to digital health tools so that patients and carers can manage symptoms, access guidance and connect with specialist teams without delay. Consistent and timely access to medicines is key to maintaining a good quality of life and good symptom control for people with Parkinson's, as well as preventing the complications that could otherwise lead to unnecessary hospital admissions. A focus on time-critical medicines is a key priority for the NHS England's Medicines Safety Improvement Programme, which is seeking to reduce severe avoidable harm associated with medicines. Work is currently underway involving 80 NHS trusts, with 48 of them receiving active support for innovation and improvement. Practical tools such as the Right Care Toolkit and resources from Parkinson's UK's Get It On Time campaign are also helping staff and patients plan for hospital stays and optimise medication schedules. While we currently have no plans to offer automatic entitlement to benefits, reforms to the welfare system are intended to improve support for people with long-term conditions like Parkinson's. Proposals within our Pathways to Work Green Paper mark a significant step in this regard by moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach to ensure that they receive the tailored help needed to live with dignity and independence and to work if they are able to do so. For those who cannot work, we will guarantee a strong safety net by ensuring that those with the most severe lifelong health conditions will have their incomes protected through an additional premium and be exempt from future reassessments. We've recently published our consultation response to the Green Paper, and we will set out detailed policy proposals in due course. Any changes to personal independence payment eligibility will come after the TIMS review, an ambitious and inclusive review that aims to ensure we have a system that supports disabled people to achieve better health, higher living standards and greater independence, including through employment. And to ensure that lived experience is at the heart of this work, the review will be co-produced with disabled people, the organisations that represent them and other experts. There is currently no plan to review the medical exemption list of conditions. However, I can assure all members that I am acutely aware of the medical exemptions list and that it has not been, it has been added to only once since its inception in 1968, which was to add cancer in 2009. But approximately 89% of prescription items are currently dispersed free of charge. And there are a wide range of exemptions currently existing from prescription charges, including, of course, free prescriptions for everybody under the age of 19 if in full-time employment, 16 otherwise, and over 60. Innovation treatments are transforming the outlook for people with Parkinson's disease, and the NHS has recently rolled out, let me try it now, Produodopu, no, not done well on that, which is helping patients with advanced Parkinson's achieve more stable symptom control and improve quality of life. This technology uses a small wearable pump to deliver medication under the skin, managing symptoms more steadily through the day and night than traditional oral tablets. The 10-year plan commits to make wearables standard in preventative, chronic and post-acute NHS treatment by 2035. And we will provide devices for free in areas where need and deprivation are highest. Alongside this research, we're driving breakthroughs in cell and gene therapies and large-scale trials testing multiple disease-modifying drugs. But of course, the future progress depends on research, which is why my department invests over £1.6 billion each year on research through its research delivery arm, the NIHR. In the financial year 24-25, NIHR has committed to £6 million to Parkinson's disease projects through its research programmes. And in addition, last month, the world's largest clinical trial for treatments to stop or slow the progression of Parkinson's opened for recruitment. I would encourage researchers to keep applying for funding through the NIHR. We'd love to see more proposals. I'm also going to ask, we've set up the UK-wide Neuro Forum, working across the 4 nations, and I'm going to ask officials to explore a conversation specifically on Parkinson's and how to better share practice across the 4 nations. I once again thank my honourable friend for opening this debate and thank all members who've contributed to the actions I've outlined. These reforms echo the priorities set out in the Parky Charter. By aligning policy with the Charter's 5 key asks, we can build a health and care system that delivers dignity, certainty and hope for every person with Parkinson's and their families.
For Davies, 1 minute to wind up. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief. Firstly, again, many thanks to the Movers and Shakers group. The work you put in together this year, absolutely fantastic, amazing. And also, I'd like to thank all honourable members for their contributions. It's been an excellent debate. I think it's very clear the consensus, as the Minister would have seen across this room, as to what we need to be doing. And I think when we were going through this debate, I was thinking of my constituent Liz Ryan, who I mentioned. She suffers from Parkinson's, an amazing individual. She just wants to have her independence, to be treated with dignity, and to live life as the fullest that she can live her life with this condition. She's not alone. I know from talking to other sufferers that's exactly what they want. Let's adopt the Parky Charter. Let's do the work that we need to do to give those people that chance. Thank you.
Yeah. The question is that this House has considered e-petition 713-714 relating to funding and care for people with Parkinson's. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. Order, order. The sitting is adjourned.